Welcome to the EntrePastors podcast on YouTube. This is a show that helps pastors think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 14 of the EntrePastors podcast on YouTube. My name is John Sanders. I'm one of the co-hosts for the show. And guys, we've got a good one lined up for you today. Les has interviewed Jevonnah Lady J. Ellison, who is a powerful woman in ministry. She's also very powerful in business as well, as she has a very successful coaching business and content creation, just some amazing things she's involved in. And she's going to talk to us today about being in alignment with your divine assignment. I love that. That's fun to say. So guys, you're in for a good one today. Without any further ado, let me get to this interview that Les did recently with Jevonnah Ellison. Check this out.
All right, Jevonnah Lady J. Ellison, welcome to the EntrePastor podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I have really been looking forward to this conversation, and you and I go back a couple of years, probably just in some mutual friendships and relationships that we have. And for everybody that's listening, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. Jevonnah and her family and church family are in Montgomery, just down I-65 from us. So, hello, neighbor.
Hello there.
Beautiful time of the year to be in Alabama right now. So, Jevonnah, thank you so much for joining us. And I know that our listeners, especially the lady listeners that we have in our audience, are going to be particularly blessed by what you're going to say. So for everybody who doesn't know who Jevonnah is, she's a pastor's wife. She is also a minister, a pastor to ladies there where they serve. She's a podcaster. She is an author. She is a coach, and she is a leader among leaders. So Jevonnah, for our listeners who may not know that much about you, would you share a little bit about your journey and kind of why it was that I reached out to you and why you're really, you get what EntrePastoring is all about?
Wow. Well, thank you again so much for having me, Les. I am not a native of Alabama. I'm actually here by way of marriage. I'm originally from Los Angeles and have been here in Alabama now for about the last 14 years. And what brought me here was marriage and marrying my husband. We pastor one church in 7 locations in the city of Montgomery. We also have one in Birmingham as well. And I started my journey, in entrepreneurship about 8 years ago when I've been coaching informally for about 18 years, but in business for the last 8, because I saw so many people, in particular, ladies who knew that their life was meant for something more. Many of them were in ministry, and they knew that they wanted to do something else to help bring in income. And so now I lead a minority-owned business, woman-owned business as well, called the Entrepreneurial First Lady LLC, where we serve ladies who lead. We also work with some men as well, but primarily ladies who lead, coaching them in fields of entrepreneurship, growth, and helping them to really maximize their potential and show them that they can create a life and a business that they love while supporting their ministry.
That's so good. And we could talk more about the particulars, but something that you said, I think is a great example for people who believe that their message is for everyone. And it might be, but as we say sometimes, when you try to reach everyone, you end up reaching almost no one. Mm-hmm. So what I love about the way that you've approached this is that there's no question that your message and your coaching and your Thrive conferences and retreats are absolutely targeted for women and the particular things they go through. But there are many people such as myself who listen, who watch what you do, and who can grow by you serving them. So would you talk a little bit about that and how, even though you're targeting specific individuals, there are others that are out there that want to hear that message too?
Absolutely. In my business throughout, we've worked with many pastors who also want to, have a side income, realizing that not all their income or having to depend on a particular family within the church or a particular group of people within the church to provide their income. And so being able to serve different people from all backgrounds has been such a blessing for me because we all learn from each other. I've been able to lead several masterminds now where we have people from all walks of life coming in there, female pastors, male pastors as well, who are saying, you know what, I know I want to do something else and I want to learn how to maximize that. So people are creating their own group coaching programs, they're creating their own live events, they're writing books, they're launching things that they've always wanted to do because they're inside of community that helps them thrive and flourish and doesn't shy away from the challenges that people in ministry face, particularly women in ministry, because again, that is one of my focuses. Women in ministry face, especially when building a business, when there are so many expectations on you in a ministry role as well. And, not formally calling myself, quote, a pastor, but yet having all of those expectations placed upon you and learning how to balance that with grace is so important.
Exactly. You said so many things there. So my wife, Paige, as you know, has been serving alongside of me for over 3 decades.
Mhm.
And there have been so many times that she, for all intents and purposes, was just as much a shepherd as I was
Mhm.
in in serving under the lordship of Jesus, but being his hands and feet and eyes and ears. That role, a minister, a pastor, I mean, there's so many times that we work in tandem. And
Yeah.
so you're a lot of the people in our community are, they're serving as couples in the local church. And this is no news to you, but I'm sharing this to let our audience know we get it.
Mhm.
For them, a lot of times for the husband to start something new and start something extra, whether it's a side hustle or even a means to at some point transition out of the local church. Often I think it might be a little bit more palatable when the wife can come along and kind of be the face or, be
Mhm.
the upfront person for that business.
Yeah, it's a good point. I also think it's so important to remember that not every woman wants to be in ministry in the same way that her husband is, even if her husband is a pastor. That's that dynamic I talked about with their expectations placed on women in leadership. That's why it's so important that she knows what her priorities are, what she's called to, and how she can walk in alignment with her divine assignment. I like to say something, and that is beautiful is a woman who is in alignment with her divine assignment. And sometimes she may not be behind the pulpit preaching, and doing her 3-point sermon, but she may be in ministry by helping people become entrepreneurs or by helping people write books. Ministry looks different for everyone. And it's so important that we don't put on a one size fits all for every woman or man in ministry.
That's so good. And I love that line. Would you say it one more time for somebody that's taking notes and writing that down? Beautiful is the woman.
Sure. Beautiful is a woman who is in alignment with her divine assignment.
That is really, really good.
Mm.
Something else that I remember you have said a couple of times that I actually use. I try to give you credit, but I hope you don't mind. And that
Okay.
is when someone comes along who is looking for coaching, but who really wants to put the responsibility on the coach instead of accepting it yourself, you'll
Mhm.
often say, "Hey, I'll be your guide, but I'm not your ride."
There you go. You nailed it. Great job.
Well, I love also, I wish you'd tell our listeners a little bit of the story behind your why. Okay.
Mm.
Because you share a very touching, but I know meaningful story for you about a friend. You mentioned a moment ago helping ladies in particular really discover who all they can be, and that
Mhm.
God created them for a purpose, for a
Yes.
reason. So would you share a little bit about that? Because it is so important to have a strong why when it comes to being an entree pastor.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. My why, her name is Colette. We were the best of friends. We worked side by side, actually at our church. I was single before, while we were best friends and whatnot. And so we would always talk on our lunch breaks. We would dream. We would have these dream sessions about our future. And we'd say, one day I'm going to start this business, or one day I'm going to write this book, or one day I'm going to marry this person, blah, blah, blah. And we just talk and play and joke. And I'd make progress here and there. And then I'd come and check on Colette. And I'd say, hey, Colette, how are you doing with that last dream session? And she'd tell me, she'd say, you know what, I have these great dreams, but I'm just scared. I just don't want to take that leap forward. I'm comfortable where I am. And I just don't know, maybe I'll try it next year or the year after that. Well, Colette was 43 years old. And she got the cancer diagnosis in October, and she was gone just 2 months later, less. And not just gone, but gone of all days on Christmas Eve. So Christmas Eve has a very soft spot in my heart. And she's only been gone 8 years, but for me, it seems like yesterday. I remember when I found out she was gone, I fell on my knees. I was working at our learning center as the director at the time, before I went into full-time entrepreneurship. And I said, God, please equip me with the tools that I need so that not another person that I know or that is in my sphere of influence dies with their song still inside of them. And I remember praying that prayer, and everything just snowballed after that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I can only imagine. In fact, none of us will probably, we won't know this side of heaven what that really looks like. But my guess would be that there'd be many, many people in eternity that share the fruit of yours and her relationship.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's funny because sometimes when I see so many women winning, and going from a job that they hated and having a job that they now love, making more money than they ever dreamed, and fulfills their, it brings them into alignment with their assignment. When I see their stories and when I see them blossoming and thriving like that, I see a part of Colette, because I say, wow, they are living out the dreams. And I thank God for that, because we do have to act today with what has been put inside of us, because we just don't know. And if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's to cherish life and to do what you are going to do now and not to waste another moment.
And haven't you found that people just come to life when you do speak those things into them? People are beaten down so much. And even though church members, I mean, people who benefit from a Christian ministry, they don't mean it in a cruel way, but there is a burden that comes along with that serving, and it tends to, I think, sometimes lead people to think that they see a lot of negative, but just to hear and know that they really can do those things in Christ and see somebody like the people in our community that are actually thriving and doing it. Yes. I can imagine they just come alive.
Yes. And in fact, I have it over here. I'll grab a copy maybe for the backstage that we do a little bit later. But there were so many women in ministry, Les, in my church, who had a dream inside of them to write a book, but they just needed help. They needed a midwife, if you will, to come along and help push that dream out of them. So I'm so happy. It just came to the door today. I had all the women of my church write a book together. And so we've just published it. It's out. It's so exciting. The women have their pictures in it. They have what they wrote. And it's this thick book of stories of all the women in the church that chose to participate. And now they're going to be able to call themselves published authors because they got in on this project. And it's just so exciting to be a part of something like that.
What a great idea. Well, I think though, let's do this. I do want to, for our backstage time, we will speak a little bit more about a lady's approach to what we're discussing. But since there are many people who will just hear this portion, I really do want them to know how they can get a hold of that, get their copy on hands on a copy of that. So would you give them that information along with, just before so I don't leave this out, let people know how they can find you and go to maybe your website. We'll make sure we'll put that in the show notes as well. And then the name of your podcast once again, please.
Absolutely. Well, the name of the website is Entree. You'll like this, Les. Entree First Lady, EntreFirstLady.com. That's the name of the website, where you can find all of our trainings, all of our materials there. We've got a free masterclass there for ladies who lead as well. And when I say ladies who lead, yes, ladies in ministry as well. But even if there are some ladies that are listening that are in the corporate environment, and you are, you lead in your company or even in your family, maybe you don't have the title that goes with it, this is certainly applicable. Our podcast is the Thrive Podcast on all podcast platforms.
There you go. Man, that's so good. Now, here's a question. Did your mom get to contribute to that book?
You know it. She was one of the first people I asked. Yes, my mother and my mother-in-law. So yes, both of them are in there.
What a great idea for a project. Well, I do want us to be able to spend a few minutes talking about, specifically talking about the ladies that are in this world and how they can start accomplishing some of their goals and dreams, and how they can find your resources through Thrive. So I'm going to go ahead and close down this part of the interview. But now, for those who want to go deeper and who have indicated that by being a part of our Backstage community, just hang around. And in just a couple of minutes, a few moments, we'll be talking about more with Jevonnah Lady J. Ellison. Thank you, Jevonnah, so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Well, hey, thanks for watching this episode of the EntrePastors podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we release a new episode. If you'd like to get connected to other pastors who are learning to think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs, then we invite you to check us out on Facebook. Just search for the EntrePastors Connect group, answer a few of our simple questions there, and we'd love to include you in the conversations. And if you're really ready to go to the next level, then we invite you to join our EntrePastors membership community. When you become a monthly subscriber, you will receive access to courses, exclusive community, and coaching that will help you along in your own EntrePastors journey. If there's anything else we can do to serve you, please visit us at EntrePastors.com, and we will do our best to serve you there. God bless everybody. See you soon.